Do you floss every night?
Do I floss every night? No,
Every night.
absolutely not.
Shawn, come on.
Okay,
dude.
but I do want to know.
Okay.
Are you on, there's this thing, I switched from regular toothpaste to a fluoride-free, like, powder, and I was using that I'm still using that, and because my gums have always bled. It doesn't matter how good of a job I was taking care of them. It's always been an issue. And now I'm seeing, like, toothpastes with different stuff in them.
Yep.
We're not doing fluoride. We're doing this other stuff that like remineralizes teeth. And I just don't know anybody that I can ask whether or not it's legit or if it's a TikTok thing trying to sell me something.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's a TikTok thing. I'm that guy that likes different scents. So I have 12 toothpaste. So I go through a tube. I don't do the same toothpaste every time. I don't do the same deodorant. I don't do the same body wash because I like different scents. I'm eating the same food every day. Bam. So my wife thinks I'm crazy, but that's okay. So as long as God, no one ever asked me this on a podcast. So as long as you're getting that bubbly feeling and it's dissipating some of the plaque, that's all you got to worry about.
Okay.
At your age, because you're over 20, fluoride doesn't matter. Fluoride is more for the kids.
Okay.
Keep their teeth strong, things like that. But you got to floss though, man. Flossing is a very important thing. I know you're shaking your head.
No, you're completely right. I was actually thinking this wasn't about flossing. It was about something different because I work in a gym and this is a self-improvement environment. Everybody who comes into the gym, you are there to improve yourself in some way. This is the one thing that you all have in common. And I've been at this place for 2.5 years at this point, and you see the same people all the time. And it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, guys, you are in here all the time. You are training, but some of y'all are still leaving pee on the seat. And I just feel like you're where you need to improve as a person. You don't need to add another 10 pounds to your bench press because you can't remember the little sing song from childhood. If you sprinkle when you tinkle, please be neat and wipe the seat. This is the thing.
Yeah.
And it got me, like, I got worked up about it last night. And so today I was going, there's probably something in my life that applies to this. Like, I am trying to improve in all these other ways, but here's this one thing that would require very minimal effort on my part. And so running across the brain pan was like, you don't floss. I'm like, ugh, that's probably it.
So I tell my patients one important thing: floss the teeth you want to keep. Screw the rest.
Okay. All right. Fine. I didn't need to be personally attacked like that. I get it. All right. We'll buy some floss.
Buddy.
I'll put on the grocery list. Exactly. Guardians don't have plaque.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
Just call me the SWAT. I mean, I'm coming in with the door. Bam.
Bring it on. Love it.
Oh, man. Whew, you got me all hot and bothered over here. Talk about floss. Get excited, man. Don't talk to a floss. Don't talk to them about floss. Woo. Help me, Lord. All right. Here we go. Oh, God. And we've been recording, so very awesome.
Perfect.
I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Shawn Richardson. Shawn is a dedicated fitness trainer, audiobook narrator, and a Ninja Warrior Finalist. Going to talk about that too. After experiencing the challenges of divorce when his ex-wife left him in September 2022, he has embarked on a journey of recovery and resilience with a unique perspective on healing. Shawn emphasizes the importance of humor and prayer, two of my favorite things, through tough times. His story is one of strength and determination, and I can't wait for you to hear his insights. And he's going to tell you to floss the teeth you want to keep.
Yeah, I floss. I've been a dedicated flosser for all 41 years of my life. I was flossing before I had teeth. I attribute surviving the breakup of my first marriage to the cleanliness of the gaps between my teeth.
Welcome to the Don't Pick the Scab podcast, with the premise of connecting men over 40 with the tools and community to thrive in their divorce recovery, either before, during, or after a divorce. Check it out. Thanks for listening, folks. But seriously, tell us about your story, and then we got some questions for you to go from there.
Yeah, so I have an acting degree. That's what I went to college for. Was on a scholarship at Elon University to do that, and moved to Los Angeles after graduating didn't take long to realize that I was good at the craft of acting, but I was bad at the business because it is all about telling strangers how great you are. And I don't like that. But that is where my ex-wife and I met at a church out there. And we ended up moving to Georgia after being married for 4 years. My son was 6 months old at the time. Pursued fitness out here for a while. I've done lots of different disciplines of fitness boot camps. I worked at a CrossFit adjacent style training facility for a while. That's where the hammer, I own a patent on a piece of fitness equipment. It's bodybuilding and mobile functionality hammer. And that's where, at that CrossFit style gym, that's where that was developed. I was a finalist on American Ninja Warrior in 2016. Picked up the patent for the hammer the year after that. Also, getting ready to audition for my second season of Ninja Warrior, I blew my knee out. I ruptured my patellar ligament and needed to have my knee reconstructed. So Ninja Warrior has never called back. I've submitted 5 times total, but they've only called the one time. I actually resubmitted this year because Ninja Warrior is a reality show over anything else. And while I didn't have anything interesting about me the first time I ran, a house fire and a divorce in the same year makes me very interesting. Yeah. There's probably some producer somewhere who is salivating at the prospect of making a 41-year-old guy cry on television. But yeah, so I was building BAMF Hammer out of my home garage up until February of 2022 when a house fire took the garage and it took the house. Nobody was hurt. I was the only person that was home. Cool. And then we started shopping around the manufacturing of the hammer from there. And it was September of that year where I went out, ran an errand, and came home and everybody was gone. So the process of doing the best that I can to really take seriously the things that were like the complaints that were being registered is a big part of what that first year looks like. At the time, I have done so much therapy. Haven't done the flossing therapy, which we've already established is a gross sin on my part.
Definitely.
But I've tried everything, almost everything. I've done what's called accelerated resolution therapy, which is a derivative of EMDR. Eye movement desensitization and whatever that one is. So accelerated resolution therapy is a derivative of that. I've done neuroplasticity training, which is, it's very passive. It's Pavlov's doggy, where they put electrodes on your head and you watch a television and the sound and the visual on the TV goes down and up based on how your alpha waves are moving. It encourages your alpha, like the brain waves to move, to work correctly. That one I actually started before we separated. And it was interesting because in your intake, they scan your brain and the proctor at the end of the scan goes, "Did you hit your head when you were a kid?" I was like, "No, I broke my spine when I was a kid, but I didn't hit my head." And she goes, "Yeah, you've got a hot spot here in this section." And she shows me the thing. You have a hot spot here on this section of your brain, which we see very often with traumatic brain injury in youth. And I was surprised by that. And we started talking about it. She goes, "Yeah, it sometimes can occur with severe emotional trauma in childhood." And for me, this was a huge revelation. Like, I've struggled with suicidal ideation since I was 7. I won't say I struggle with it now. I did for a long time struggle with suicidal ideation. It's been a tension point. It's been there almost for as long as I can remember. So having this kind of revelation of, hey, there's this thing in your brain that kind of explains some of this stuff was really revelatory. And so I ended up doing 40 rounds of neuroplasticity training, started the ASMR or the ART. I was going to a men's group at my church Tuesday mornings, Wednesday mornings. And then at a certain point, let's see, when would that have been? Spring of last year, I actually did 4 rounds of therapist guided ketamine, which was very interesting. But yeah, it was just these things about me were in the way of my relationship. And I was like, okay, let's kill him. Let's figure out where it is. But it ended up being very positive because obviously there was no reconciliation.
Yep.
And it was, while I started a lot of that therapy in hopes of reconnecting that bridge. It ended up being very useful for the healing process from the trauma of that.
Wow.
And only thing I got in the divorce was the church, and the guys at my church have been, I can't say enough about the guys that picked up the phone at all hours of the night.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your recovery process?
So she was my reality check. When depression is there, when there's mental illness, it's going in, you find the person that you can look at and say, hey, my brain is doing this. Is this true? And you trust their yes or no. And so the hardest part for me personally was getting to this point where I was really blindsided. We had one conversation before the separation about what she was unhappy with. And at that point for me, it was, okay, my wife doesn't like this. So that's when the pursuit of therapy stuff started. And so to lose the reality check, and now all of a sudden there are things being said that I don't understand and I want to. We'd been in couples therapy together for 18 months when things happened. And I remember reaching out to the therapist going, can you explain to me what is happening? That was really the hardest part of having to all of a sudden be standing by yourself and going, I don't trust what's in my own mind.
Gotcha.
And there are very few people that I can bounce these ideas off of and go, hey, is this nuts? Now the men's group at the guys that I have at my church were able to fill that void, and a couple of friends were able to step into that space, really vital way. But for me, there was no suck it up and bear it. Like, I was probably miserable to be around. When we separated, I was a stay-at-home dad in addition to trying to build my business. So there was no job to throw myself into. And then I had this small business. I've got the hammer that's working, but we have no manufacturing because everything's gone.
Yep.
So it was very much I look at it now and go, God, I must have been awful, because it was the only thing I talked about. I just didn't know how to metabolize it. It just kept coming out of me.
Oh, yeah.
Every conversation ended up in that point. And it's really only been in the last 6 months that I'm looking at that going, this has got to stop. It can't be the most important thing anymore. And what that means is, hey, look, potential scam calling. Great. Nope.
Yes.
Yay. Thanks for interrupting the podcast, potential scam. Sorry, I thought I had that on airplane mode. But, and then missing my kids.
Yep.
Was the worst. Growing up, the thing I wanted to be more than anything was a dad. And now to see my kids 4 days out of 14, it's like letting your soul leave and going, I'll see you in a week. But those were the real biggest, like, sitting in and I, because there was the depression there, like, going to the negative place, it's almost the place where I'm more comfortable. I know exactly what the script looks like, beating myself up and blaming myself and saying it's all your fault. So I read the book of Job a lot.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
So how did fitness play a part? How did that help?
Oh, gosh. And it's so many workouts crying. And that's for the members of your audience whatever your relationship with exercise is, when you have an emotional thing that you're like keeping a lid on, it requires physical effort to do that. And I remember, like, the first time in my career when I experienced somebody exercising so hard they had a breakdown. Like, they literally ran out of energy to keep their emotional wall up, and then it all came tumbling down, which is really weird because I was just like working a group of athletes in sit-ups, and I turn around and all of a sudden this girl's bawling around. It was, for me, very difficult to get a workout started because the moment I'm like starting to warm up, the negative self-talk is there, and it's, what's the point? 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 And because so much of, I think a great deal of why I got into the fitness industry was to give myself worth, to be desirable in some way, because I'd never felt like I was. And it's ironic because now as I work with clients, the majority of the clients that I work with are in the same mental space. I'm a much better pastor than I am a congregant in this regard. I'm being able to look at somebody and say, hey, your worth as a person can't be improved by lowering your body fat percentage or increasing your squat max. By making you lose weight, the only thing we do is make you more efficient to kidnap and throw on the back of a van. Like, you're lighter, it requires fewer people to do it. But the discipline of making yourself show up has positive results. This is good for me. It's flossing. It's good for me.
So do you think that the discipline helps negate the negative self-talk?
I think it does. I don't think it does it at the speed with which most people would prefer. Yes, showing up every day, important. Show up every day. Whether that's go out for a walk or get into the gym and do your workout, get your thing in every day. But it's almost like giving your brain the vitamin. I'm giving myself the dopamine hit that is not related to my cell phone or praise from another person or whatever. It's you versus you. On some days, you versus you, it doesn't look like a great workout. It looks like I got in 2 sets of push-ups and I'm done. Emotionally, I'm done, but I'm here. One thing for new clients, regardless of life circumstance, that we say is, if you really want to do it, just go every day. You don't have to do anything. Just walk in the door. Because if you can walk in the door, what you'll end up doing eventually is, let's say you walk through the door and then you turn around and walk back out. Eventually, you're going to go, I can walk on the trail for 5 minutes. And just showing up. I'm already here. Let's do something. I'm already here. Let's do something. That's really how you build the sand dune out of the grains of sand. It's little bits. It's little bits. And it's only way down the line that you look back and go, oh, I have built a sand dune out of this. And some of the therapeutic stuff falls into the same vein, where I had a therapist that was asking me to your journal 3 times a day, write down on a scale of 1 to 5 how you feel about this and how you feel about this. In the beginning, I'm looking at these numbers going, I don't want to do this. I don't want a reminder for myself that, yes, today I feel like garbage too. But over time, with volume, eventually those numbers start to feel a little bit better. And you go, oh, maybe I just spent an hour not feeling like it was all my fault and I failed my children. And that's progress. Yep. Because that's closer to reality. It takes 2 people in these scenarios, and discerning what's true, I still don't know, but it's getting easier to go, but it's not important.
Yep. It's almost trying to experience the small wins, because small wins add up.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And within the fitness space, that is something that I encourage people in all the time, because the way that the stories we're told about exercise are always at the tail end, where somebody's achieved all this stuff that we don't get a chance to see. Or it's the montage in Rocky IV, where we're going to take 6 minutes and play an amazing song, and he's going to train hard enough to beat Ivan Drago, who's being pumped full of drugs by the USSR. I think, especially in the United States, with the volume of storytelling that we get on a regular basis, process is never part of that. We skip process. Tragedy, process, victory. That's how our storytelling works, because the process is the messy part. Yep. That's the part that stinks and feels hopeless and like you're drowning. And nobody wants to watch that. We want to watch the payoff that you'll get there. But the problem is, it changes our expectation of how fast these things go. And it doesn't go fast. You attach yourself to another person we were coming up on 15 years of being together, had 2 kids, and then all of a sudden they're gone. You can expect to heal that with expedience? No, you have to sit in the pain of it. And the heart, it's such cold comfort. But since going through mine, having the opportunity to sit down with guys from my church who are going through stuff, or the occasional person at the gym, and go, look, this probably isn't going to encourage you at all, but there's a person that's coming in your life that you don't know about that's going to need to hear what this was like for you. and they're not going to be able to survive it if you aren't there.
It's almost like they're putting your way on purpose.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
Yep.
And it's almost like God connects us. But I remember hearing that from people and going, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. This hurts. Like this hurts in a way that I did not know something could hurt.
Yeah.
And then you just I say this is the same thing with the hammer. The hammer's been around for long enough that at this point, if it was going to work, there's part of me that goes, it would have worked by now.
Yeah.
Not necessarily true. God's got timing on it. I don't even know what that timing is. He's telling a particular story. And if that story, Christians in the West have a really troublesome habit of not reading that book very well. So there are prophets in there that spend their whole ministry preaching to one city and they get thrown out and nobody listens. But that's the story that God's telling. So just at a certain point being, I don't want to say too stubborn to fall over, but you do get to the point where you're like, Lord, I got nothing today. I got nothing to give.
Okay. And that's okay. Just one of those days.
Yeah.
I have to drop my impression on you. Ready?
Yeah.
If he dies.
If he dies, he dies. Yeah.
Rocky 4, baby. Rocky 4.
Yes, he does. But yeah, it's the messiest thing.
Yeah.
It's the messiest thing. And because at least my impression of it, you lose somebody to death. It hurts, but they're gone.
And you're reminded.
And you're reminded,
over and over.
You're reminded over and over again, but they don't change the scenario anymore. The person who passed away no longer manipulates the situation. When you're dealing with a divorce, now all of a sudden, that person's still there, and you still have to engage with them to a certain degree. And so there's a regular conversation in my house that's one or the other of us going, okay, the ex did this. And one thing I'm very blessed by in my marriage is that being able to, we're very much the opposite of who we were married, who our first spouses were.
Gotcha.
So there are times where something will come up and, her expectation is that I'm going to get mad or be frustrated or whatever. And I'm going, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. That's not a way to love you by treating you like that. And so, I think the biggest frustration that I had going through the process was speaking to somebody who hadn't been through it and just going, okay, you take your opinions and you just shush. But taking somebody who's been far enough away from it to forget just how you dump a bucket full of mud and crap out on the floor and you're just wading through it going, okay, here's something. Let's rinse this off and see what it works. But you never know what that piece is going to be. You just have to be open to it. I don't know.
What about the F word, the forgiveness piece, the forgiveness of yourself?
Oh, I'm much better at forgiving other people than forgiving myself. Okay, so I remember dropping my kids off one day and pull away from the house that used to be yours. And the house that burned got rebuilt. The kids are back in that house. I'm very grateful for that because that was a very traumatic event, going to school and coming home and everything's on fire. But I remember driving away and I was bawling and praying about it, going, Lord, what do I not understand about forgiveness that is preventing me from doing this thing? And I'm always hesitant to say something like, and then God said, because who knows? But it was one of those, it was a fairly clear thought that was out of character. And the impression that I got is, just because maybe the better way to say it is, a set of circumstances arose for her that led her to believe this was the best choice. Just because those set of circumstances did not occur to me does not mean that they do not exist. Meaning, maybe I would make the same choice that she did if, any number of circumstances happen. That set of circumstances exists. It does. But I was living like they did not. Like it was impossible. There was no possibility that I could have done to her what she did to me. And that's not true. And the understanding of that made forgiveness easier. Forgiving myself is getting better. But going, yeah. I was doing, this is running through my head since you and I booked this, really going, okay, be honest with yourself. What if everything she says is right? What if every single thing? Have you considered that every single thing she said is right and own that? Because at a certain point, we're talking about perception.
Yep.
And I know what my intentions were, but if that's not how I was being perceived, I would view it as my responsibility to change that. That's how my marriage works now. We have occasionally, it's an awkward conversation. Hey, what'd you mean by that? Because you said it and it made me feel some kind of way. I know you well enough to know I don't think you meant it like that, but that is how it came across. So can we take a moment and just pause and clarify? But I've just looked at it and gone, I'm not going to stop being a father. And so the things that have been registered, I don't want my kids to have a dad that's like that. So I need to know if they're true. And to the degree that they are true, I need to work on finding out how to pull that weed. So I don't know that I would say forgiveness for myself is something I am good at. I think in this context, it lives in the, okay, if this was a fitness environment, I'd be analyzing squat patterns, figuring out what muscle is not activated, giving it exercises to get it stronger so we can change the form. That's where I am, of going, okay, what's lacking? What's faulty? Can we isolate it? In that isolation, can we manipulate it? Can we change it?
Wow.
And can we heal? So that's about the best I got right now.
Oh, that's fine. So you touched on the topic of resisting self-harm. Can you elaborate on that aspect of your journey?
There were two different times over the course of, I think, the first year that I had to call a friend and go, hey, I need you to hang on to my pistol. And it was never to the point where I was like, oh, if I'm left alone, I'm going to do something. But just, you go, I'm not playing with possibility there, because you just look at your kids and go,
yep,
they've already been through enough. I'm not. And a conversation can be had at some other juncture about referring to that as cowardice and giving up. I don't like to go to that place because I'm like, you don't know that person. You don't know. Yeah. But for me, I was just like, nope, we're not giving this as an option. I don't care how much it hurts. It's not a piece that we're going to put in play.
I gave all my pistols and rifles to a friend of mine. So I was in the same boat, and he kept them for a year. And I tell people it's not, you don't want to kill yourself, but you just want the pain to stop. And one of the ways the pain stops if you're not here.
Yep.
And that's how it started for me. But like you said, though, man, my kids snapped me out of it. They said, hey, you need to be there for your kids. And you do something to yourself, and the collateral damage reaches far.
Yeah. And having been in that mental space before and had people say that to me, I remember the resentment of it and going, you just don't know what this, and you're like, on the other side of this going, yes, I don't know what it's like, but I also know you're not thinking straight. And to sit with somebody in that is very awkward. It is very time consuming. It is not convenient. But I mentioned the book of Job earlier. The best thing Job's friends did was sit with him for 7 days and shut up. And I think it says something to, sometimes you just need to be in pain and not alone. Because I remember going back to that dumb apartment that had an extra bedroom that wasn't full and hand me down, like, I was back in college again because it was a bunch of furniture that my parents had left over. And I just started back in this, and my parents were amazing. They moved down to Georgia from Virginia, where I grew up, a year, 2 years? No more than 2 years before everything went down. My sister is in Gainesville. And so I had a place to go. And but I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have like a room in their home. But yeah, that empty, quiet TV was always on. There was always noise. There was always some form of, I've watched so many shows several times through because you're just like, as long as it's not quiet, as long as it's not quiet. Because you get used to the sound of children and then you have it ripped away. And it's just, so you do anything to fill that particular void, but go. It reminds me a little bit of advising people on a weight loss journey to never go to the grocery store hungry. Look, it's going to seem like a silly thing, but it's just preventative. Okay. Yep. When you're in a good head, you need to go to the gym and then go right to the grocery store. So you're coming off of your goal-oriented task. You're going to make better choices. And then you don't let yourself buy things that can become a bad decision later. I felt the same way about passing off everything. It's going, this is not something I am afraid of doing. But if I get to the point where I should be afraid of doing it, I do not want to have a mechanism. I don't want to have a way. Because when I want one, that's when my resolve is at its weakest, and it feels like overly protective, and it can. But for me, it felt like loving my kids.
That's strong. All right, Shawn. My men have about a 30-minute attention span.
That's great.
So it's 37 minutes with flossing. That's
hey, perfect. All right. I have to go do that. We got dinner after this, but then I will.
Yeah.
Let
people know where to find you on the web.
Let's see.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So the Instagram account is BAMF Hammer. That's us. We got a TikTok account that I can never remember the handle on. You can find us if you're in the Kentucky and Tennessee areas over the course of the summer. We're going to be at the Music City Fitness Expo and Home Gym Con, which are both amazing events, especially if you're into exercise at home, exercise at the gym. It's just a cool community to be around. But that's usually where you can find me. I'm the only person on the Instagram account, so if you message that account, it's me.
Right.
But yeah, if I would just say, if you're part of this audience and reach out, I don't care. I don't know you. I'll give my phone number to anybody. Like, I know what it's like to have nobody pick up the phone.
Oh yeah, community runs deep for sure. Hey, we appreciate you hanging out with us tonight.
Absolutely.